Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Extra Serving, a Nation's Restaurant News podcast. I'm your host, Holly Petre, here with the latest episode. And now it's time to introduce my two lovely co-hosts.
I am Sam Oches, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leanne Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of NRN.
I say the same thing every week, Sam, and yet every week you look surprised when you have to say your name.
Oh, it's my turn, I guess. Well then, I guess if we're doing this, here we go. Here is my name.
He's worried he's gonna forget it. He's gonna open his mouth and go, "My name is." What's
my name? I don't know. Don't put this pressure on me. I can't.
Such tough questions.
I was about to sing a song, but I don't think we have the rights or the money to buy the rights to it to sing the song. So
we definitely don't want to get sued.
Well.
Yeah.
No, just as well that we don't sing.
Amen.
Well, so how have you guys been? How's your week been?
Oh, just dandy. It's blazing hot here and not so much there. So, yeah, enjoying summer now officially.
Officially
pretty
summer,
cold
yes.
here.
Leanne's least favorite, cool weather.
I'm such a summer girl, and it's been 65 degrees the last 2 days, and I'm like, if it's gonna be summer, I demand summer weather. But that's not getting me anywhere apparently. So
I don't think it works that way.
Lovely.
There you go.
This weekend is supposed to be just beautiful, Leanne, in New York. So I'm sure it'll.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the
Ohio.
weekend for sure.
I hope it'll be nice in Ohio, Sam. So you're not. You are in Ohio, right? I didn't get that wrong for some reason. You made a face like I got that wrong.
I mean, literally for the last 2 months, every day has been consumed by moving to Ohio, and you're asking, wait, did you?
I don't know. You just made
Ohio?
a face, and I was like, did I pick the wrong state? Did I do something wrong?
Idaho. I moved to Idaho, not Ohio. No, I moved to Ohio. Yeah, and things are fine. I have been swarmed with people pretty much almost every day because I have the fortune of now being back around many family and friends, many of whom wanted to reconnect in consecutive days. So I have had lots of social time the past several days, which is all good. I love all these people. I like reconnecting with people, but I like some downtime as well. There's been a lot of food. Actually, we just did a big order from Condado Tacos, which is an exciting emerging concept with about 40 locations based here in Columbus. We had some friends over the other day and got a bunch of tacos, and that was fun. So that was a nice dining experience. Oh, and I had my first Raising Cane's. This is going to sound crazy to everybody because, talk Raising Cane's all the time, but I have actually not lived near a Raising Cane's until now. There's one 5 minutes from me. And so the family did a Raising Cane's day the other day, and as good as advertised.
Wow. Good to know.
Although I don't want to do like shots fired over here or anything, and this is going to be relevant to what we talk about today, but I would go Chick-fil-A sauce over Raising Cane's sauce. So sorry,
Polynesian
I had to put it out there. It's public now. No, just the Chick-fil-A sauce. They're just Chick-fil-A sauce. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll
surprise no one that I have not been to a Raising Cane's.
Nope, not at all. Although you have one in New York now, yeah?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Later this year or early next, they're going to open in Times Square. So we'll probably continue to not go. I had never been to a Raising Cane's until I went to visit them a couple months ago. So
that's right. Now you're our Raising Cane's insider. You got all the dirt on Raising Cane's. Yeah.
Yes, now I know so much about Raising Cane's.
Well, they didn't. I mean, they were very like Texas and South, but they were not. I don't know if they have a store in North Carolina almost at all. So I didn't have access to them in North Carolina, but they are now expanding out quickly from their southern base. So everybody else will have access. Although I think actually the Ohio market was one of their early ones because I know they've been here in Columbus forever. So anyway, that's a plug for Raising Cane's yet also. And I did like the sauce. I'm not knocking the sauce. I'm just saying I'm kind of hooked on Chick-fil-A's sauce. Like I'm not going to eat it by the spoonful, but let's just say I would dip anything in the Chick-fil-A sauce.
I feel like we're gonna have to test that next time you come to New York. We're gonna go to Chick-fil-A. We're gonna get a bunch of their Chick-fil-A sauces, and then I'm gonna just bring several different kinds of food, and it's gonna be like a mystery challenge.
Well, I don't think you're hearing me, Holly. They have a Chick-fil-A sauce. One sauce. It's like called Chick-fil-A sauce. You're like, oh yeah, all the sauces. No. Chick-fil-A has a sauce.
Just the one sauce.
No, I'm gonna get a bunch of the Chick-fil-A sauce. I'm gonna get a bunch of it.
Okay.
And then I'm
there
going
we
to
go.
get all
Yeah.
different kinds of strange foods, and I'm going to make you dunk them into the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Okay, I see. Yep. No, I'm game. I would do it. I would dip any food into the Chick-fil-A
We'll
sauce.
record it for content.
And I bet you it's good. Yeah. Next menu tracker. Maybe Brett and I will do it together. I bet Brett would make that fun.
I mean, I don't know if celery would be good in there. I don't know if raw Brussels sprouts would be good in there.
Celery
it'd be so
would be
good
good in there.
Yeah, celery would be so good in Chick-fil-A sauce.
Celery's made for dunking. Dunk it in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no words. I'm speechless.
Oh, Holly.
We
Naive Holly. We did it.
She's speechless.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Holly, you may go. Leave the adults here
That's
now.
a wrap.
All right, let's talk about news now. We've sort of meandered into news, sort of gotten our way in there. Sam, you worked in food, I guess. Time to talk about work. Ugh.
I gave you a segue on a silver platter.
And I said work. Ugh. So I feel like I really got that silver platter, and I really just smashed it on the ground. So you're welcome for that.
Oh, gee, thanks.
So breaking news this morning. We record on Thursdays, as you guys know. Breaking news this morning. One of the Chipotle stores. One of the Chipotle stores.
Now that would be a shock. That would be a real shock.
Looking forward to that day.
One of the Chipotle stores is unionizing. That's pretty big news.
Trying to, yeah.
They're trying to unionize. That's pretty large news for a Thursday morning.
Yes, indeed. I mean, when you look around sort of the country today and where we're at right now, I mean, Apple, Amazon, I think there's just generally momentum for unionization now. So I guess I'm not surprised. And of course, Starbucks within food service being such a huge push toward unionization that it was really a matter of time before other major restaurant companies saw some activity themselves. And so for it to be a Chipotle restaurant does not surprise me. I mean, generally speaking, I think that unionization within QSR and fast casual, I mean, it often has not gone anywhere just because of the sheer amount of turnover in these restaurants. And so to some degree, I see a lot of this as being kind of symbolic. And I'm just curious to see how the momentum sustains itself, because even Starbucks, I don't know, there was like a real push for a while there. And then, if you can't keep that momentum going, it just kind of peters out eventually. So I'll just be interested to see if other Chipotles go in this direction. Last thing I'd say too is what's interesting about it being Starbucks and then Chipotle, they're two companies that have really championed culture in their companies, and for those two companies to really be the first to see this kind of activity is interesting. Although also both of them are vastly corporate owned, so that's also a factor here that there's a real difference with a franchise location. But yeah, it's interesting, and I'll be curious to see where this goes with Chipotle.
For sure. Yeah, I wasn't surprised to see it be Chipotle either. Chipotle stores here in New York have been organizing for a while. But this store, and then this one, of course, is in Maine, is the first one to actually file. But I'm not surprised to see it be Chipotle, and I'm curious to see where it goes. But so far, it looks very similar to the Starbucks push. The company response has been, we wish we had more time to respond to complaints, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, curious to see where it goes both at Chipotle and also industry-wide.
Well, we'll keep following that news and keep you guys updated as the story breaks and as more news develops. But in the meantime, let's talk about Chick-fil-A, which I accidentally named as the store that was unionizing accidentally. So let's
Chick-fil-A
talk about
is
Chick-fil-A.
not
It is not
unionizing. Let's
unionizing.
emphasize that.
As
They're not
expected.
unionizing. Not.
Yet.
They have introduced a new drive-through prototype that has to do with mobile ordering, following in the footsteps of a lot of their other competitors to do this mobile ordering drive-through. So you go through the drive-through, but it's only for people who order through the app. Something that Sweetgreen's been doing a lot of. So I'm curious what you guys think about this coming from Chick-fil-A. I mean, I realize that they have a lot of to-go orders, but they're also a restaurant that is so built on hospitality. So I find it an interesting move. I mean, we talked about it with Panera last week. These brands that are like built on the fact that they are dine-in or hospitality focused, having to move where the consumer is. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, look, Chick-fil-A, they are the kings at drive-through. I mean, they crush drive-through. I mean, they're so good at it. And anybody who has seen a drive-through at rush hour or just not even at rush hour, but one that maybe is in a kind of awkwardly located spot where cars are pouring out into the road, everybody knows that Chick-fil-A has just massive amounts of drive-through business, and they're very, very good at it. They, even though they have long lines, they get people through relatively quickly. I say relatively just because it could be a long time, but for so many cars, it's still impressive how quickly they can get folks through. And I've been in some crazy Chick-fil-A drive-thrus that we like swirl around the restaurant a couple different times, and it's like an airport with all the people doing movements and employees telling you where to go. It's fascinating stuff, and they're just really, really good at it. Now, all of that setup is to say, this news from them, to me, doesn't seem as big of news as like Taco Bell's drive-through prototype where they're doing the 4 lanes and all of that. To me, this is more, Chick-fil-A already does accept mobile orders in the drive-through, but you go through the regular drive-through. So at my old Chick-fil-A, there was like a tent in the parking lot, and you had 2 lanes you'd go through, and you'd place your order with somebody, and the third one was your mobile order, and then they'd all come into they'd funnel out of those 3 lanes into 1 lane, where you would go through with a regular business to get your mobile order. All of this is doing is they're introducing an express lane for mobile units at a number of locations, which just makes a ton of sense. I mean, because now they can make their drive-through even more efficient by pulling out that mobile order business, which presumably will only get bigger and bigger, and so they can more efficiently run their normal business and keep their mobile business over here. And I'm sure is just going to help them to run through business even faster than before.
Agreed. Yeah, Chick-fil-A also has always prided itself on having like quick turnaround times in the drive-through lane and in the stores. So this will just help them keep those numbers where they are. This is definitely much more of a practical move rather than a flashy one like with Taco Bell. A big part of Taco Bell's play there is just, look what we can do. And that's great. We've talked about that before, but with Chick-fil-A, it's, hey, how can we get our customers what they want faster? And yeah, so I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're talking about these drive-through prototypes every single week now, so it's not a surprise to see another store doing that. And this is great because they're, adding them to stores that already have existing drive-throughs. So it seems like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy operationally because what do I know, but it's easier than adding on to stores or starting from scratch with a totally new prototype.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. So it says they have this operating at 60 locations, and without having seen how they are working currently, I'll be interested to see what that looks like. I mean, one thing I know about drive-through is that the drive-through business itself, it might seem like, oh yeah, you just put a window on the side in the lane that wraps around, but it is so much more complicated than it sounds to design a drive-through, especially when you consider the lot you're on. So what I'll be interested in is if this is successful for Chick-fil-A, how do they retrofit their restaurants and their drive-through lanes and their current throughput? How does that all change, or does this mostly go into new builds? Because, like I said, at my old Chick-fil-A, I can't imagine how they would add a totally new express drive-through lane. But they did manage by having just a side of the parking lot where you kind of went around. So there's going to be some finagling they'll have to do as they add these to restaurants, and I'll be really curious to see how they do it. But yeah, I mean, if anybody's going to figure out how to do this well, it's going to be Chick-fil-A.
I mean, they said that it did significantly improve the time, in a statement from the company, that in their tests, it did really improve the time that it took for people to go through the drive-thru. So far it seems to be working, in what they've been doing so far. So
And imagine how much more business they can do. I mean, they're going to get the business regardless. I doubt there are that many people who turn away when they see a long line at a Chick-fil-A, but maybe they do, because those lines are really, really long sometimes. So just imagine if you can significantly decrease the amount of time that a mobile order has to wait for their food. But that's going to also decrease the time of the regular business, because it's going to pull some of the cars out of that. I mean, they're doing almost 5 million AUV already. Like, if they make this even better than before, how much more business could we see them doing in a couple years?
I mean, we say that all the time. Chick-fil-A is, one of the top 5 brands in the country by sales, and they're only open 6 days a week. This is how.
Yep.
Stuff like this.
all right, so for our last story of the day, just want to touch on this a little bit. We're kind of running out of time. But we do have another CEO who has left their post. The CEO of Red Robin has stepped down, joining the great resignation of CEOs that we've seen. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that there are any strong contenders for the role that we've seen so far? I mean, it's a brand that is in a turnaround. So, I mean, what do you guys think about a potential CEO? Do you think that we are just kind of sitting here looking for anyone right now?
Do you want to be CEO of Red Robin?
I know. Are you looking? Here's what I'll say about Red Robin specifically. We've seen a lot of, as you said, so many CEO retirements, et cetera, this year. It was always Paul Murphy's plan to retire at the end of his 3-year contract at Red Robin. Now, it was not Paul Murphy's plan to see the brand through a pandemic, and to go through all of the things that he's gone through at Red Robin since he joined in 2019. But it was always his plan to retire at this point. And he's retiring at the end of the year. He hasn't stepped down yet. So my guess is that while the landscape certainly looks different than we thought it would at this point, that the company has probably been thinking about this question for 3 years and then some. So I don't have any predictions at this point, but I'm guessing that the company has its options already.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the bigger narrative here is not, who's going to be CEO of Red Robin and, oh my gosh, Paul Murphy's retiring. The bigger narrative here is the trend in leaders leaving their posts, because you see this outside of food service too. You see it in retail and other industries, which is, I think a lot of CEOs, well, for starters, they've navigated businesses through the most complicated, difficult season in the history of business. But I think a lot of them also didn't fully expect the economic environment we're in right now, with the inflation, the expected recession. I don't remember the company, but I was reading a story recently about a CEO of a major, I think it was a tech company, who resigned because of he could not foresee. I think so many leaders thought once we were behind the pandemic was behind us, we're post-pandemic, we'd be rife with opportunity, and a lot of this particular company was not prepared for inflation, and sales are tanking. And look, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody could have expected this economic environment. But I just have to imagine, if you're a CEO of a company who's gotten this far into the pandemic, and then you're looking at, oh, now I have to guide my company through a recession. I mean, if I was close to retirement, I'd consider that too. I would say, you know what, not worth it. I'm gonna check out, because it could be bumpy for another year or two. Whether that's a recession or not, it's going to be pretty tricky couple of years. So anyway, that's my guess. I can't speak for Paul Murphy, but I think that that's the narrative here with a lot of leaders leaving, which is it's a good time to go.
It's a good time to go, and it's a good time to get a new job too. I mean, I feel like it's I just feel like it's a good time to get a new job if you're a leader, not if you're somebody like me at my level, but if you're a leader.
I was like, Holly,
are you giving notice right now?
Yeah, that's a weird way to do it, but kudos to you for the creativity, I guess.
If you're
Boy,
a
that's
CEO, if you're a CEO, if you're a CMO, if you're a CFO, like if you're in the C-suite, this is a great time to be moving around because these jobs are so liquid right now. They're moving around. I don't know if liquid's the right word. It just sort of flowed out of me.
Fluid is what you're going for. It's a very fluid situation. Okay, anyway.
And on that note,
she tries so hard.
she like threw herself into it too. She was like, I'm not backing down on this.